Good evening and welcome to Ten10 News, your top 10 news in 10 minutes. I'm Andy Hong. Happy New Year, and let's get right into this past week's news. Saudi Arabia is under criticism for executing 47 people in a single day, one of them being controversial Shiite cleric Nimr al-Nimr, a well-known dissident of the Saudi royal family and government. The Iranians were quick to criticize the Saudis' brutality and warned of consequences for the actions. The Saudi government responded with firm statements on Iran's own problems and its purported meddling in Saudi domestic affairs. The two states have been regional rivals ever since Iraq fell out of the dominating stage after the Gulf Wars and have been locking horns in a proxy war in Yemen. They are, however, begrudging allies in the war against ISIS, although in different coalitions. The United States State Department called on the Saudis to respect human rights and permit dissent, but it is doubtful if any substantial political action will take place as the situation in the region for the U.S. is quite sticky. In Israel, a shooter in Tel Aviv killed 2 and wounded 7. The police have semi-released the identity of the suspect as 29-year-old Israeli Arab who is still at large and is being hunted by Israeli security forces. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the scene and praised Arab leaders within the nation for condemning the attack, but demanded that all citizens of Israel follow the nation's laws to prevent the existence of a separate Islamic terrorist state within. Prior to the attack, about 21 Israelis were killed by Palestinian stabbings and shooting attacks. At least 131 Palestinians have also been killed. Dubai is still investigating the cause of the New Year's Eve fire on the Address Downtown Hotel, a luxury 63-story hotel not far from the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world and the site of the New Year's celebrations in the city. Nobody was killed, although 16 were injured. The celebrations and fireworks, however, proceeded without interruption. Fortunately, firefighters put most of the blaze under control after 20 hours of battling the inferno. Hillary Clinton recently accused Donald Trump for becoming ISIS's tool for radicalization with his anti-Islamic rhetoric. Analysts struggle to find where Donald Trump was ever mentioned in ISIS's recruiting videos, but their search is now over in a place that they didn't quite expect. Al-Shabaab, a branch of Al-Qaeda, purportedly released a recruiting video denouncing racism and discrimination in America. The video featured footage of civil rights era struggles, Malcolm X's speeches, recent police shootings, and a clip of Donald Trump's proposal to ban all Muslims from entering the United States. Trump has not commented on this latest development. He is too busy arguing with Clinton over who's more sexist. In the United Kingdom, some Iraq war veterans are facing war crime charges, with lawyers referring to, according to the BBC, alleged abuse by soldiers to the Iraq Historic Allegations Team, or IHAT. 2 public inquiries have been conducted for such claims, considering more than 1,500 possible victims, 280 of whom were allegedly unjustly killed. Some, however, dispute the legitimacy of the claims. In an interview with the BBC, Colonel Richard Kemp expressed doubt on the sheer number of allegations. One thing, however, is for sure: IHAT's budget runs out in 2019, and proceedings have been incredibly slow. Korea and Japan have reached a shaky deal on the subject of comfort women, which is basically the G-rated way of talking about Imperial Japanese military's sex slaves during the Second World War. After long resisting direct compensation to victims, Japanese Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida agreed to donate 1 billion yen to a fund to help the survivors, while the Korean Minister Yoon Byung-seo agreed that as long as the Abe administration follows up on the monetary deal, Korea will consider the case closed. Kishida apologized on behalf of the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who followed up in absentia apology with a short statement of his own. The two nations also agreed that they will refrain from criticizing each other on the international community over such subjects. Now, it's a start, but many in Korea, especially advocacy groups for the victims themselves, were left wanting. The apology included empathy towards the victims, but had no mention of the Japanese government accepting blame for the war crime, and failed to address the whitewashing of Japanese textbooks of Japanese atrocities during the war. But then again, the Park administration also opted to censor Korean history textbooks, but I digress. Bill Cosby was finally arraigned to a court in Pennsylvania after months of vehement lawsuits, countersuits, and denial of sexual assault charges. He was brought to a court under the charges of Andrea Constant, the first of more than 50 women who accused Cosby of drugging and sexually assaulting his victims. He now faces 3 felony counts of aggravated indecent assault, which carries up to 10 years in prison, although offenders usually receive 2 to 3 years, or in Cosby's case, probably slightly more. Camille Cosby, the entertainer's wife, first requested to not testify at a January 6th deposition, but a Massachusetts court denied the motion. There was a small earthquake near Los Angeles and a larger 4.5 magnitude earthquake 30 miles off the coast of Northern California at 250 miles northwest of San Francisco. The area had a string of small earthquakes since Monday, when it had a larger 4.9 magnitude jolt. Remember that the jump from 4.9 to 4.5 to 4.9 is quite significant as the Richter scale increases by a factor of 10. So in reality, the strength difference is 10 to the 4.5 power versus 10 to the 4.9 power. Daily weather in the Midwest left near record cresting of the Mississippi River in Missouri and Illinois. St. Louis faced heavy damage, but fortunately the storm waters receded quicker than it did in other areas of rural Missouri. 22 are dead and 5 are still missing. The Merrimack and Missouri rivers also flooded, as well as the Ohio River, which caused some concern in Kentucky. One of the major headaches during this particular storm pattern was the poor state of storm levees. They easily crumbled under rising water and proved once again the need to improve this nation's infrastructure. Finally, for tonight's science news, sorry chemistry students, but you'll have to learn 4 more elements. US, Russian, and Japanese scientists officially filled out the 7th row of the periodic table with elements 113, 115, 117, and 118. The elements were found by colliding lighter nuclei and tracking the decay of the heavier product nucleus. A Japanese institute gained credit for the element 113, while American and Russian teams claimed credit for the rest. Element 113 is actually the first element discovered and named by Asian scientists, so way to go. And this was the Top 10 News of the Week. I'm Andy Hong. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week with more of your Top 10 News in 10 minutes. Stay educated.